everybody. Welcome to the Macabre Podcast universe.
Hello, hello.
Here we are finishing off another series, a international film from a wonderfully productive country of movies named India.
Yes, this is the Macabre Podcast universe.
Yes.
I'm Jordan. That's Micah. We exist to prove people wrong when they say
Sequels.
are never better than the originals.
Oh, I was going to try and go every other word.
I didn't want to do that.
And we're finishing off this really excellent series. This was our first time watching it for both of us. And so this movie, I'm just going to throw the opinion out there right away. I felt like it was not as good as the last two, but the final act of this movie was so good, I was powerless to not give this 5 stars on Letterboxd.
Yeah.
And so in hindsight, I was like, well, then I guess the other 2 movies are 5 stars as well. So I went back and I put 5 stars on those movies as well.
Yeah.
I think seeing the full journey of Apu I'm just realizing this now, it's just a rare instance where the sequels don't just build upon, but they like enrich the entire story.
Yeah.
Because now it feels like we have seen Apu's life.
Yeah.
And so the first 2 movies like mean a lot more to me already, having seen the completion of it.
Yeah.
And so it's a really special and wonderful series.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to turn you up because I can't hear you.
Okay.
But can you talk a little bit about you?
I think I agree that I think this is my least favorite out of the 3, but that doesn't mean I didn't enjoy it. I really, really liked it. I felt like with every one, they cooked a little bit faster each time.
Yes, I felt that as well. This one was like the easiest to watch.
Yeah.
Although the second one was pretty easy too. It was just the first one was quite meticulous, but that's part of the beauty of it. You know,
Yeah.
That's not a complaint that I
And
have.
this one, well, I guess let's get into it more when we get into it. How was this movie made? Tell me.
So this one is not nearly as dramatic as the others.
Okay.
But there's a fun excerpt from the Criterion Collection Blu-ray combo pack that we have from this that I'm going to get into that has to do with the entire trilogy. So,
Okay.
but I'm going to save that for once I finish my notes. So once again, this is directed and written by Satyajit Ray. It's based on Aparajito. The cinematography is by Subrata Mitra. The music is by Ravi Shankar. So this is the same crew for all 3 movies.
Yeah.
Really wonderful. So awesome. I messed up. I didn't write what day this movie came out. Can you look that up for me?
Yeah.
And I will tell you about the movie. So, Sumatra Chatterjee, who is the... Oh,
October 4th, 1960.
October 4th, 1960. I think in India, I believe it came out in 59.
Got it.
But yeah. Because I think all 3 of these are all 50s movies. But yes, the lead actor, Sumatra Chatterjee, auditioned for Apu in Aparajito. But he was too old.
Okay.
But Ray remembered him the whole time.
Okay.
And so Chatterjee was unaware that he was the lead of this movie.
Okay.
And he'd gone to one of the sets of Ray's 4th movie, Jalsagar, to watch the shoot. And on that same day, when he was leaving the set, Ray called him over and introduced him to actor Chabi Biswas, saying, quote, "This is Sumatri Chattopadhyay. He's playing Apu in my next film, Apur Sansar," leaving him quite surprised.
Oh, okay.
I'm confused because the quote has a different name listed than the name of the actor. But I don't know. That's what I found.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of it. This is not as dramatic as the first movie.
Well, I wonder if this is true.
Okay.
Okay, that's a weird one. One of the problems facing Satyajit Ray was that showing scenes of intimacy between a young married couple, such as kissing and hugging, were strictly forbidden at the time.
Okay.
And that's interesting because throughout, and we kind of talked about it in, I think, more the last movie in terms of parental stuff.
Yeah, there was controversial stuff with the mother relationship.
Yeah, but we were just curious culturally or anything. There just doesn't seem to be a lot of physical affection in general. And you and I were wondering, like, is that cultural? Is that the movie? Is that cultural of the time?
Yeah.
And even this movie, I didn't really think about it, but it's interesting to read about it. That was potentially you couldn't film that
Yeah.
because it was inappropriate, even though they're married.
I don't remember having this conversation with you, but
Well, I think we just were talking about how, like, the mother obviously really, really loves her family, especially you turned your flashlight on, just like an old person.
It's on purpose.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like, she clearly loves her children, especially Apu, especially because he's her last family member, and she's very clingy to him and stuff. But it's not a lot of, like, hugging him, holding him. It's like acts of service for him.
Yeah.
It's always what can she do for him, which I do understand that for sure.
Yeah.
But there wasn't a lot of, like, even when he came back and like, oh, my train left, she didn't like embrace him.
Yeah. I thought that was more, I thought that was like
a little more character driven, but
I see what you're saying. Was there anything else you had there?
Matt Groening stated several times that Satyajit Ray's Apu Trilogy were his favorite movies.
So that's probably why Apu is the clerk in the Minute Market clerk in Simpsons. I guarantee you that's why he chose that name.
Oh.
If this is his favorite series.
And then just the last thing, this stuff's always interesting. Sharmila Tagore, who plays Aparna, the wife.
Yeah.
She was only 14.
Okay.
And when she was when it was the scene of her going into his apartment for the first time, she did not see the apartment at all, the actor.
Oh, very cool.
So when she was like in there, she was in there for the first time, like reacting.
Love that.
Yeah. So
you did a little production notes here.
Just right now.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you, because this movie, I'm just going to read from the Criterion Collection, because I think this is pretty interesting. This is about the restoration of the film. So they have this wonderful thing. They'll have these booklets, and they'll talk about the restoration and the aspect ratio and the sound and all that stuff, because they're presenting it as the filmmaker intends. But this one is a little, this whole trilogy almost is not something that we have access to.
Mm-hmm.
So in 1992, while preparing the broadcast of the Oscar ceremonies in which director Satyajit Ray was being honored with a Lifetime Achievement Award, activists of the Academy were dismayed to discover the poor condition of existing prints of his films. The following year, after Ray's death, a project was initiated to restore the films. During this time, several of the director's original negatives were shipped to London's Henderson Film Laboratories, but then tragically, in July 1993, a massive fire at the lab spread to the film vaults, destroying more than 25 original negatives of important British classics and burning several Ray films, including the original negatives of the Apu Trilogy. Wow. Any ashes or fragments or film cans that could be identified as belonging to Ray's films were sent to the Academy Film Archive, and sciences, But the Apu Trilogy negatives were deemed unprintable, as there were no technologies available at the time that were capable of fully restoring such deeply damaged film elements. When the Criterion Collection began working on this restoration with the Academy Film Archive, the negatives were in storage and hadn't been seen in 20 years. Many portions were indeed burned to ash, and what remained was startlingly fragile. Thanks to deterioration and the heat and contaminants the elements had been exposed to. Head and tail leaders were also often missing from reels, yet significant portions had survived from which high-quality images might be rendered. No commercial laboratory would handle this material, so it's sent to the special place. Their technicians successfully rehydrated the brittle film using a special solution, 1 part glycerol, 1 part acetone, 3 parts water. And scanning tests determined that pin-registered wet gate scans yielded the best results. Film technicians then set about physically repairing the elements. This meant hundreds of hours of meticulous hand labor, which included rebuilding the sprocket perforations on the side of the film and removing melted tape and glue.
Gosh.
Using fine-grained masters and duplicate negatives preserved by the Academy Film Archive, the Harvard Film Archive, and the BFI National Archive, excellent replacements were found for the unusable or missing sections of the original negative. In the end, 40% of Pathar Panchali and over 60% of Aparajito were restored directly from the original negatives. The 2 surviving reels of Apur Sansar, the movie we're talking about today, were too damaged to be used in the restoration. So all of the film was restored from a fine-grained master and a duplicate negative. Over the course of nearly 8 months of steady work, the Criterion Collection Restoration Lab handled the digital restoration, including eliminating dirt, debris, warps, and cracks. Emphasis was placed on retaining the look and character of the original material, preferring when necessary to leave damage rather than over-processed digital images that might lose the grain and feel of film.
Well, thank you to everyone.
Yeah.
To restored this trilogy. That's wild.
Yeah, and if you're ever wondering, if you're ever like, man, the Criterion Collection, that's just a bunch of uppity snoots. Know that I didn't realize they went this far deep into it as the actual preservation element.
Yeah,
so,
they didn't just slap their name on it to make some money.
No, they make sure this is all there, and that's why they're not probably prioritizing, like Avengers or something like that. You know, they're prioritizing movies.
Like they're investing in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, that was pretty interesting, and I'm glad I didn't say that on the first two movies because it gave us a little something extra to talk about on this one.
I know, it just really ate up the time.
It really ate up the time. I mean, we're up to 11 minutes, Jordan.
Oh my gosh.
And that's without the intro added.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Sumitra Chatterjee plays Apurba Roy. Apu.
Oh, okay.
Apurba Roy. Apu. He passed away in 2020.
Really?
At 85.
Wow. He was excellent in this movie.
I thought he was the weakest Apu.
Really?
But I thought he was great.
Wow.
I thought he was great. For sure. Absolutely. But I kind of was more impressed with the other performances.
That's interesting. I wouldn't say that he was better than any of the others, but
the fun thing about this trilogy, though, is they're all different stages of life.
Yeah.
So each one of them had something completely different to do.
Yeah.
But,
I
thought he was great.
I wouldn't even compare him with the others, but what I thought was amazing was he was super charming, and he made you feel that fervor for life.
Yeah.
And then when he loses the fervor, it was really affecting.
Yeah.
But I will mention a very funny thing. The cover of this has him basically the end of the movie when he's got the beard and he's looking back. And I did not realize, I kept waiting for the movie to time jump because I didn't realize it was the same actor because I had seen just the cover. And for some reason, it looked like a totally different actor. And then as we were getting toward the end, I'm like, oh no, he just grows a beard. And that's the same actor as is on the cover.
That's
anyway.
Classic Micah.
Yeah.
I kept waiting when I looked up stuff about this movie, I kept seeing images of the child on his shoulders.
Oh, okay.
So the whole movie, I was like, when do we get to that part? And we're getting towards the end of the movie, and I was like, still hasn't happened yet. This has to be the scene. And I guess this is at the very end of the movie, but that's the image that I see. That's
always a little annoying when that's what you see, but it's not that type of movie. It's not really a spoiler to know everything that happens in these movies.
Yeah.
But I've known because I read this booklet. I thought there was a booklet per movie.
Oh, yeah.
But it's just for the whole trilogy. Yeah. And I read it, and it mentioned a suicide attempt on a train.
Yeah.
That is
so you're
stopped by
I don't want to
pig.
know that.
And I was like, oh, crap.
Yeah.
I guess I know that now.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so Sharmila Tagore plays Aparna, his wife.
Mm-hmm.
She is still doing it. She, I like this, a Bengali actress who achieved success young. Sharmila appeared in numerous Bengali classics before making the jump to Hindi cinema.
Oh, interesting.
Which first made her a romantic actress and later a legendary actress thanks to her intense films opposite superstar Rajesh Khanna.
Okay, do you recognize Rajesh?
No, can you look up who that is?
Yeah, can you hit me with the spelling of that first name?
I think you can figure it out. R-A-J...
Wait.
R.
R-A. I clicked T. R-A-J.
E.
E.
S-H.
Kumar.
Khanna. K-H-A-N-N-A.
Okay, let's see. Wow, what a snack. Who's this guy? Wow, he looks cool. Yeah, I don't think we've seen any of his. He's before our time of Indian movies that we've watched. He's not even really a snack. I just, it's fun to call guys snacks.
Well, I mean, how many people can have this in anyone's bio? A distant relative of poet Radni Dranath Tagore. She's also the wife of His Highness Mansur Ali Khan Pataudi.
Okay.
His Highness.
Wow.
Please and thank you. Yeah. So I wanted to see his friend is Pulu, right?
Yes.
That's played by Sawapan Mukherjee.
Okay.
This is the only thing he's in. He was really good.
He was really good. Super naturalistic.
And then Kajal is played by Alok Chakravarti.
Uh-huh.
And that's his son. And this is the only thing. That kid was crazy too.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, we probably shouldn't jump to that ending, but there's so much to talk about when we get to that. Okay, you want to just jump in?
Let's do it.
Okay, so we get introduced to Apu again. He's older, different actor, and
he's full-fledged adult living on his own in Calcutta.
Yes,
still, but he dropped out of school.
Yes,
because he didn't have enough money to continue his education.
Okay, I totally missed that.
I think that's what he said.
Okay,
what's good about the performance is he seems like he's full of life. It doesn't feel like the end of the world for him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think because that first scene, it's some like professor or like the guy in charge of the school or something was still being very encouraging.
Yeah.
Like, if you can't go to school, you should continue to pursue being a writer.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Like, there's promise there.
Yeah.
For you. You can become the next whatever. So he did, and I do think for like the good chunk of most of this movie, he is like full of life, full of possibilities.
Which is why the ending, as they'd say on Blank Check, pays out like a slot machine. Yeah.
It is interesting to think about, though. So he is full of life, full of opportunity. But the last movie ended with his mother dying.
Uh-huh.
And apparently, I do think that there is definite grief for him, but there is a relief when his mother died.
Yep.
His mother was overbearing, but he was the only
classic
person.
Tony Soprano situation.
Not as bad as her. Not even close. But she was overbearing, but he was the only one left for her, and she was his only last person in family. Right. So all they had were each other.
Yeah.
But it got to a point for him where it felt like he couldn't like succeed in life.
Yeah.
Because of his mother.
She was like holding him back. And so it's interesting to see all the tragedy that he's been through. Lost his sister, lost his dad, lost his mom, and he has no one. And he seems like he's like his mood. Yeah,
that
is interesting.
He's like, I don't know why I'm going to say this. He's choosing life, which makes me just think of George Michael.
Oh, that makes me think of Trainspotting.
Okay, yeah, let's do that one.
Well, I mean that's connected to the George Michael, remember? Yeah, he has when we first meet him, he is in his apartment, which apparently is, kind of a trashy apartment.
Well, it's like it's
but it kind of looks
like
nice.
The building, it doesn't look nice.
Well, I mean,
think of it this way: he's not renting an apartment; he's renting a room.
Yeah, I just like that balcony. I just want that balcony.
Sure.
But all of this to say,
yeah,
he walks outside and it's raining, and he like looks up at the rain, and it's like he's just living. He's just existing in the moment.
Yeah, and even though he lives like by the train tracks, and it's so freaking loud.
Yeah.
He is living in a single room at the top of this building where he is to share everything with everybody. Like, again, like in the last
it's not a nice apartment.
Communal, like drinking water area, washing of things and so on and so forth. But yeah, he still is just, I don't know, happy, I guess is the best word for it.
His apartment is reminiscent of the last series we covered, which was so intentional. A Mr. Peter Parker, his apartment by the train tracks.
Sure.
And we were intentional about that and knew that when we set this up.
And his landlord comes and visits him and tells him that you're behind 3 months rent and I'll need it by tonight or you're out.
Yeah.
And even still, Apu is like, yeah, I'll get it. I'll figure it out.
Uh-huh.
Which, of course, that day he goes to try and find a job.
Yeah. Which reminded me of the Tina episode of The Bear that we were just watching.
Oh, yeah. So this felt interesting. It felt like he was being a little picky.
Yeah.
So he does have education in terms of a degree.
Yeah.
So he first goes to a school that's needing a teacher. And I was a little confused by this. I don't know if you were. But first of all, the people were like really rude to him.
Yeah.
And he says that he has this kind of degree. And the guy says, we just need this degree. And didn't he say like, well, I do technically have that degree because I have the one above it?
Yeah.
And the guy was like really rude about it.
Yeah, it sounded like he was like, I have a master's in teaching. And they were like, you just need a
bachelor's.
You just need a bachelor's. And he's like, well, yeah, I have a bachelor's because I have a master's. And they're like, well, then say you have a bachelor's. Quit being so uppity with us.
Yeah, and then he just leaves.
Yeah.
And then he goes to...
He made the right call on that guy. The guys were like gambling in a school.
Oh,
I mean, these guys were pieces of work.
It was not great. It was not great. Well, it's funny because all the kids were playing outside, and then he goes inside. And I'm like, where are the children?
I know.
Like, shouldn't they be teaching them right now? Which is probably maybe that's the point.
Yeah.
And I think they said it would pay like 10 rupees a month or something.
Yeah.
So again, I'm like, is that not enough for him? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
If he's behind 3 months rent, that's 21 rupees. So I don't know. But then he goes to a pharmacy plant where he would be a labeler. And the guy's like, do you understand what that means?
And he walks in a room and it looks like a sweatshop.
It's literally people putting labels on tiny bottles.
Yeah, I mean, it was
children, like every age group was
depressing
there.
to look at.
Yeah, there were children there doing it.
Yeah.
And old people there doing it.
Yeah.
And it did look, and he was looking at them like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
Like, this is soul crushing.
Yeah.
And I feel like maybe this was at the very beginning of the movie, wasn't it? Like, we heard people protesting.
Yes, we did.
And I kind of feel like there's another part in the movie where we hear protesting. I'm curious what is happening historically during this time.
Well, I think
it seems like it was a workers' rights thing.
I thought it was something to do with students.
That makes sense because that was at the school.
Yeah.
But then later on, when he's talking to Pulu, his friend, he said that he did get a job at the railroad, but he didn't know that he was a scab. And that the rail company was on strike.
Yeah.
So he got hired to do probably got barely paid at all.
Yeah.
And then when the strike was over, he lost his job.
Yeah.
So I don't know anything historically during this time period what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, there are probably just a lot of striking stuff happening around that time.
Right. And such.
Because, I mean, we're probably in the 30s.
I guess.
Because I think the last movie was in the 20s.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Industrial Revolution, all that stuff, right? Or that's after the Industrial... When is the Industrial Revolution?
Isn't that more turn of the century? Yeah.
I think you're right.
That's like There Will Be Blood.
I need to crack open the history books. It's been a little while.
Well, also, we don't know hardly anything about India.
Well, that's true.
Besides, like, Gandhi.
I know that there were two historical figures that met and became best friends, Fire and Water. And they were able to take down those British bastards. That's all I know.
Yes. And apparently isn't it kind of right wing?
I guess there's...
Well, propaganda-ish.
I think that there's some stuff that would be the equivalent of like if there was a movie that was about like the Revolutionary War for us and there were people that like specifically were wearing like red out of place in a way that felt Trumpy. I think there's that in the movie where there's like flags that remind people of like right-wing stuff now.
Oh, that's pretty fascinating.
Yeah. And sorry to bring up Trump on this beautiful series.
Seriously, bleep the name.
Yeah. So then he sees his friend and they're talking about jobs a little bit. And I think his friend's suggesting a job. And
his friend came back from being abroad, or he's gonna go abroad.
Yeah.
His friend is also full of life. Oh, his friend was like, "You quit school. How come you quit school?"
Right.
And then that's when he's talking about
like
a job.
Looking for him. That's what it was.
And I assume this is the same friend from the last movie who they talked about going abroad. And his friend said, I can't wait to go abroad.
Oh,
and
probably
Apu
is,
says, I could never go. My mom would never let me.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming it's the same character. I'm just going to see if I can quickly find that. But
yeah. So they have this conversation, and
what's
then...
What's the last movie called?
The last movie is called Aparajito. A-P-A-R... I think another A. Okay. So I'm going to stall because I think that you're probably going to jump in at any time, giving me the information that I need.
I don't think I'm going to find it.
You're
So
not
just
going to
go
find
ahead.
it? Okay, well then,
Nah.
so they're talking,
Yeah.
and they get a little drunk, and they're walking on the streets, and I am a sucker when a movie does this. When a movie
When
says...
it tells you what's gonna happen.
Exactly, when it's like, this is what happens. Because he's saying he's writing this novel, and he says it's about someone who is an artist. I think he says a novelist, even.
Yeah, and they've had all this tragedy happen to them time
He
and time
mentions
again.
like a dad dying. I think he just mentions a dad dying.
Yeah.
So it's not like exactly his life.
But his friend does say it's autobiographical.
Yeah, and he says, yeah, but there will be some, like some love interests and all this stuff. And then he's like, you don't know anything about love. You've never been set within
You've
yards
never
of
talked
a
to
woman.
a girl.
Yeah. So then he says, but what'll happen is he'll never make it as an artist, but he will understand the joys of life because the joy of life is living it.
And it's like, okay, so I'm going to cry. Start the timer now.
Yeah, I'm like, holy cow.
Yeah.
Okay. And so a lot of times when we get this set up for a story, and I'm not against this, but as an artist, and you have to, first of all, asterisk, you have to define making it for yourself.
Yeah.
Because even people who have, quote, made it, like, hate their lives and hate themselves. So, but it's tough being an artist, especially when it's all you want to do and you have to get a job and stuff like that.
And it feels like the world tells you no. You can't do it.
You get like one victory, but that's after like 50
Losses.
failures.
Yeah.
So it's incredibly hard. It's one of the hardest, if not the hardest thing you can do with your life. And so, but it's so worth it. But a lot of times movies set up like this, and then he finishes the book and it gets published and he did it. And like, that's a lot of times the story of these kind of movies, which are inspirational and it's great. And with this movie, I was kind of like, I just don't, I want this movie to do what the book he is talking about does.
Yes.
Because for one, it's more relatable in my life right now. Unbearably relatable.
Yeah.
And for two, that is, there are plenty of artists who are making it, who are doing it, that we will never know their names.
Yeah.
Especially with the advent and muck of the internet.
I feel like if this movie went that route, where it's like he did live and he was successful in terms of becoming a bestseller, that would be the American way of doing it. Like that would be an American movie. Yeah. Like I think that like a producer or studio or whatever would get the script and be like, this is great, but we do need him to publish that book and become a bestseller.
Right.
Because if he doesn't, then he doesn't win. And we need our protagonist to win.
Yeah.
And
these movies have never been that. So it might feel out of place.
And
I think Ray could do it, but
but the thing is we don't need him to quote unquote win in that way. We don't need to see that. But what we get at the end of the movie is still him succeeding.
Yeah. Well,
even if it's not this like big, huge victory where it's like, I can go to bed tonight knowing that Apu is going to go to bed with a full belly, full of love, and wake up in the morning with a lot of fun stuff to do.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I don't know any of that, and I don't feel like any of that. I think he's going to go to bed cold and hungry with his 5-year-old son, who he knows nothing about, especially knows nothing about being a father. But you know what? He'll be happy and he'll live.
He will find the joys in living life by just living it.
Yeah.
So I love that. Yeah. So then his friend says like, hey, come back to this village with me.
My cousin's getting married. Just come for like basically a fun weekend.
Yeah.
Of a wedding.
And then we're going to meet who I could use probably like 8 or 9 sequels about Binu, the groom. We're going to meet Binu.
He's mad.
He's a mad groom. I mean, this is like HBO. I know that you're, doing a lot of prequel series with Dune and Harry Potter and stuff. Not prequel, but just, spreading universes. Let's open up the Apuaverse. Get Binu out there. But I want the original actor reanimated as soon as possible.
Before we get there, though, it is worth noting. So, he's convincing Apu to come with him. Mm-hmm. And he explains, like, the journey. and what it's going to be like. You'll be it's full of rice fields and flowers, and there's a river, and it's so beautiful, and you'll love it. And Apu laughs at him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Pulu was kind of like, why are you laughing? And I think Apu was like, this. Oh yeah, and he's like, and there's winding paths through trees and forests, and
he's
Apu
like, that's
was
what
like,
I've escaped.
That's what I grew up in. Why would I?
Yeah.
Like, it's just so funny that you're talking about it with such reverence, and I feel like for Apu, all that it brings up such bad memories for him, because not only the tragedy of losing family, but he was living in poverty. Not that he's not in a way like he is kind of still now, but it's a different. I feel like to him it might be different, a different type.
Yeah.
So it's just a funny response for him to laugh, and then their journey out there, they're on the river in a boat, and Pulu is reading his story and loves it.
Oh yes, yes, I really like that.
But it's very beautiful. It is a very beautiful landscape. And it is interesting when they get to the family and get to the village. They live like in the country, but they obviously like do well for themselves.
Yeah.
So it's a very different country experience than what Apu was
absolutely
grew up in.
Absolutely. So then they're getting ready for this wedding, and it's such an old, like, you wouldn't do this performance now in reality, but the Binu groom being mad, I think, is like, it's just a little color in the movie, and I just thought like it was genuinely like a really good performance.
It was great. So he is being brought on. Is it called a palanquin or whatever?
I think so. Yeah.
He's brought, like, people are carrying him in it.
Yeah, and they're doing "For He's a Jolly Good Fellow." For
That's
he's
what
a
they're singing. That's so funny.
Well,
with a
it's just
band.
there's no singing.
There's no singing, but that's the song that they're playing with a marching band.
Yeah,
and
which I need to look up. But keep going.
And the guy is like literally like about to pass out, and like, oh, the sun got to him. It's a really hot day, and they're like, no, he's mentally ill. He's mad. And they're like, they finally get him out of it, but like he is not fit to marry today. And the family is freaking out. Oh yeah, you're looking up the auspicious thing, because
I did look up that.
The family's like, the auspicious hour is almost over, and then she can't get married again. And then Pulu's like, isn't there another auspicious hour at 10? And Mike and I asked, what's the auspicious hour?
Which is where I will cut in, and I believe that they are just like, they're based on the Hindu calendar and are like festivals, and there's like auspicious days.
But what does auspicious mean? I can look that up.
I guess I can just look up that word. But yeah, so I think it's basically like conducive or favorable.
Okay, so just the best time.
Yeah, so they must like line up a lot of weddings and stuff for that time.
Interesting.
For He's a Jolly Good Fellow is French origin, and it was composed the night after the Battle of Malakwe. It became a French folk tune and was popularized by Marie Antoinette after she heard one of her maids singing it. The melody became so popular in France that it was used to represent the French defeat in Beethoven's composition, Wellington's Victory, Opus 91, written in 1813. The melody also became widely popular in the United Kingdom. And remember, those bastards colonized India. Well, I don't apologize for the colonizing, but any current United Kingdom listeners, welcome to the podcast, and you're great. But back then, you sons of bitches. And it was sung with the words "For He's a Jolly Good Fellow," often at all male social gatherings. Yeah, so that makes sense that it would have made its way to India. I'm glad that men have a song. Well, finally we get a song.
I know. That's what we've been asking for as a society.
You women with all your songs. For She's a Jolly Good Fella. Would it be Fella?
I'm skipping past it. The other interesting thing about this is they're so worried about the wedding happening, because if it does not happen, this is Apurna's one and only chance to ever be married in her life.
I guess,
if she does not get married
culturally
during these auspicious hours, she will become a spinster. She is basically damaged goods.
Yeah.
If this does not happen. So they're freaking out.
I know.
And not only, I'm sure, for her sake, but for the family's sake and for the family name.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they need her to get married. They need her to have a family to carry all this on. I'm sure that's all the pressure that people are feeling. So Pulu comes to Apu and is like, so have you ever thought about getting married, like, today to my cousin?
No, I know.
And Apu, this is right, of course, right after Apu is talking about everything he expects from life.
Yeah, and so...
And he does mention, like, it's fine if I don't get a job. Like, it's
I'm
fine.
free.
I'm free. If I have a job, if I don't have a job. Like, because I think Pulu's like, I can get you that job as a typist.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, but no, I'm free. And that's what is important to me.
Yeah.
So, of course, classic movie fashion.
Yeah.
Someone comes to him and says, can you do this thing?
Yeah.
Can you, like, rise above yourself and do this thing?
Mm-hmm.
And basically to Apu, it means giving up his freedom.
Yeah. And see, so I think, like, why I was originally thinking, like, this one wasn't as good as the others, which is a strong term because I was in no way not enjoying it. But I feel like it just felt so much lighter than the other two. But it's setting up this romance, which he's never had. Which, I think it's fair to say that none of these movies are really better than any of the other ones.
True.
The rating is just, like when we go through our rating at the end of this episode, it's just, like, absolutely preference.
I agree.
You can't really say that one is a better story or a better act. Like, it's all just across the board, like, masterclass filmmaking.
Yeah.
But then he marries her, and they have this awkward night that we see.
I think it's their third night.
That's right. It is the third night, which yeah. And then
it's very beautifully decorated.
Yeah.
Bed chamber. She still looks beautiful, still looking like a bride.
Yeah. She looking like a bride.
And Apu is pacing, nervous, and is like, there's things I need to tell you about myself. Like, do you know anything about me? No, son. I just met you. I don't know anything about you. But Pulu told her a little bit about himself. He told her that he is a writer.
Uh-huh.
And then he told her something else that I can't remember.
I don't remember either.
I think, like, that he doesn't have a job.
Yeah, he's poor.
Yeah, and that was something that more than anything was what he was worried about, was he has nothing to give her and offer her. He has nothing to offer her family.
Yeah.
Which is just so interesting, like the customs. And I just tried doing a quick Google search on more stuff, but Indian weddings are way too complicated to just do a simple Google search. So this is a later thing for me.
Yeah.
But, like, so she was supposed to get married today, and it didn't, like, the person she was, what is it called? Arranged to get married to did not work out. And, India is not the only country that's done arranged marriages. Throughout history, other cultures have. And
Name three.
Don't do that. But a big reason for that is to
it's political.
It's political, diplomatic, to carry on
patriarchal.
Family legacies and to carry on money.
Yeah.
Like, you're marrying this person because they have a lot of money, and combine our resources and we'll be more powerful than the other guys.
Right.
So it's interesting that this not working out and her marrying this other guy that, like,
who keeps playing a flute and reminds the people there of Lord Shiva.
Yeah.
So I think there's an element of, like, they see this as this man coming in.
It's like a vision.
It's like an omen. It's like a vision. So they're like, I guess this is just meant to be.
Yeah.
We're powerless to it. The God sent him.
Yeah.
I think is what they're
thinking. Which I do love that. That's cool. Yeah. But yeah, it's just interesting that, like, I guess customarily they wouldn't just, like, wait until they find the next best suitor who can, like, not just provide for her, but is, like, the best political choice, which I guess just means, like, I wonder how much throughout, I guess I would just say Bengali. Because this is Bengali. Like, if that's just not really important. I'm sure it is important status.
Yeah.
But, like, if how often this has happened.
Right.
And not, just like, you have to marry this person because they're the best available person.
And it's like, it's also a period piece that they're making. And then it's also 70 years removed from when this movie came out. Almost 70 years since this movie originally came out.
So there's so many layers of cultural things that you and I don't know about.
Yeah, well, and even if we talk to someone like from Bengali, they might be like, "Oh yeah, like that happened to like my great grandparents, but
Exactly.
nobody else since
No.
then." But
Well,
you know,
it reminds me of the first movie when the sister Dolger.
yeah, I think that's
I
right.
don't think that's right. But one of her friends is getting married.
Yes.
Her parents found someone for her, and his sister is like, "I'll never get married."
Yeah.
Like knowing that they're in such a destitute, impoverished situation that her parents can never hope to find someone who would marry her.
But the irony is, she doesn't live long enough.
Yeah.
That's
Something, but like that was her. It was obvious, like obviously a dream that she had, something to look forward to of like getting married one day.
Yeah.
But even at the time, not having the hope to do it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So they have that conversation, and then he does take her home back to Calcutta, and
this part is very sweet and touching.
Yeah, because for me watching this, I'm just like, okay, so she's gonna like run away from him or something, right? At a certain point,
Yeah.
like she'll try this out.
Yeah.
You know, I'm married to this guy. I gotta like be married to this guy, but like he's never gonna win her over.
Yeah.
So she walks into the apartment and sees how like ramshackle it is. She looks out the window and sees a mother with a child, and she's crying. Well, that actually makes her stop crying. I noticed too, there's a lot of crying babies in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like a lot of that means that there was just life. This movie is teeming with life.
Love that.
And her seeing a baby and a mother picking up the baby, like there's families here. People are people are living.
Yeah.
I think that's like the key word is living, and thriving is not even a thought. Just living.
Yeah.
Is
I get what
by
you're
living,
saying.
I mean contentment.
Yep. Yeah.
And so she is crying. This is really hard for her, but I think learns fast, like, this is my life now, and I will make it work. And through this, her and Apu do fall in love.
I know they wake up, and we don't know how long it's been.
Yeah.
But he's staring at her, and you're like, he's fallen in love with her. And this is why I'm like, this guy is so good, because I see it all on his face.
Yeah.
But there's also this like really poignant moment for me, where what is her name again? Apurna grabs these coals in the morning, and she just starts like working on stuff. And he looks at her, and his facial expression changes, and I imagine he's thinking of his mother.
Oh.
And he's kind of going like, oh, like I think there's a moment, I don't know exactly what he's thinking, but it feels like there's this moment of like, oh no, this is not what I want. Like, my mother's in my house again, and I was free of this.
Oh, interesting.
But then it fades away when she goes out, and because this is that whole thing where he's watching her, and she's like, let me get by, and he's not making like he looks totally disconnected. But then when the train whistle goes off, and he kind of like grabs her, and you know, doesn't he say something to her about the train whistle, and then
I don't remember.
And then he expresses like, I don't think I can provide for you.
Yeah, I don't provide enough for you. He did take that typing job. He does work there.
Yeah.
And then he does tutor after work. And he said that he's like, I'm going to go out and hire a maid for you. He's so insecure about her not having enough, her living in this trash room.
And I think back to the mother thing is, I don't think he wants her to be like his mother.
I think that's for sure.
Yeah.
And
that's more what
we do see this visually a little bit more later, but demonstrated. But it is like we are seeing him starting to live for someone else, when his whole life has been about living for himself. Because even in the first movie, when he's born and being raised, like everything
he's
was
a little kid, you know.
Well, he's a little kid, but he's also the son.
Yeah.
So like everyone's taking care of him. They're always making sure that he's eating. They make sure that he goes to school.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the next movie, he asks to go to like continuing his education, and his mom does that for him. And she still cooks for him. She's still slaving away for him. But in this movie, we're seeing him do something for someone else.
Yeah.
So he tells her, I'm going to get a maid. And she says she doesn't need a maid.
Yeah.
And she says, drop the tutoring and come home earlier to me.
Yeah.
And it's like he has to like rewire his brain of like, but if I drop the tutor, I'll make less money. And she's like, yeah, but you'll get to be here with me.
Yeah. She says something so beautiful where she's like, but will make less money, but I'll see you, and then I won't be like upset anymore. I'll be content because I'll see you.
And that is like the most like butterflies in the stomach feeling
Yeah.
of like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, she loves him. I think I was like, I think I said, wow, during that part, you know?
Oh, it was so nice.
Yeah.
And what's so great, so the thing later that I feel like they demonstrate really well is she cooks a meal for him and he's eating, he's eating and she's fanning him while he's eating. And it's exactly what his mom did for him.
Yeah.
Which was like, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And then immediately it switches.
I know.
She's eating and he's fanning the food for her.
I know.
Whether or not they even happened with his family dynamic, which I doubt that did happen. Yeah. But like they never took the time to even show something like that in the other movies with his mom.
Yeah.
So no one ever did that for her.
So it's like a mutual relationship.
It is like he is serving her.
Yeah.
And it is so beautiful to see them like falling in love together and existing together.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
So then she goes back home for a little bit. She's going to go home for 2 months.
Yeah. So she is pregnant.
Yeah.
It's very, I don't know if they like conveyed it. I was kind of curious if she was. Because I feel like they said something that made me think like, oh, maybe she's pregnant.
Yeah.
But they never show anything.
Well, she held up the pregnancy test.
When?
I'm just kidding. They didn't have pregnancy tests back then.
That's why I was confused. But so yeah, they go to a movie.
Yeah. And they have that classic shot where it's like dollying over to the.
It was crazy. It was just interesting that he was kind of like, oh wow, and she's crying about it. I just love that, them showing that. And then the scene transition was bananas. Yeah,
because it transitioned from the window of the screen to the window of the car that they're in.
Yeah, and I love that
the coach that they're in. I think.
She's saying, "Why are we taking this? It's too expensive. Like, why can't we just take the bus?" He says the bus is too crowded.
Yeah,
and basically also like, I want to spend money on you.
Yeah,
like you're about to leave for 2 months, and I'll have less money to spend.
Yeah,
or I'll have less reasons to spend money with you gone.
Yeah,
he just wants to do something nice for her.
Yeah, and I do love this thing that I don't see it portrayed very often, but or maybe I do. I'm just not thinking about it. But it's a quick little thing, and it's something that I think both you and I really relate to as artists again, where he's like, it's gonna be terrible that you're gone. I wish you were always here, and it's to your credit that I'm not like working on my novel and stuff like that.
Oh my gosh, that was insane.
Yeah, but then he also says, he's like, but when you are gone, I will be able to work on my novel, and that'll be great.
Well, yeah, because she's like, so I know I've been keeping you from it. He says, yes, you have been keeping me from it, and I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, it's to your credit.
Because I get to be with you.
Yeah.
And a big thing I think he also means by that is I get to live life.
Yeah.
And like, you were like, you are helping me write by experiencing life with me.
Exactly.
And it's like, dude, this movie, you're saying some of the most beautiful stuff.
Yeah. You almost said crap.
I did, but it's just way too low for a movie like this.
Oh, yeah.
So I said stuff instead.
Yeah. But yeah, that's really moving and really relatable, because it's like, oh yeah, I like when you and Talia went up to Portland for the weekend, it's like, well, that sucks. I want to be around you guys. And then I was like, but it will be nice in another way, because I can finish this song I was working on.
Yeah.
And really focus on it, know? So that was just like so relatable, and I loved that.
Mm.
And then, as this is going, I think both Jordan and I were like, well, we've seen 2 other Apu movies.
Yeah,
this isn't about to go
when is she
well.
dying, right? Is what we're thinking.
And
but you also hope, like there was a part of me that was like, but I don't even know if it's necessarily that kind of movie. Like I could see,
well, it's been
some other kind of tragedy happening.
Light, you know. And then he's like reading this letter she sent him, and there's this creep on the bus trying to read the letter.
Yeah.
And then he gets home.
And the letter is her saying like, you've only written me 8 letters when you should have written 7.
You should have written 8.
Yeah, and like if you do not write back to me, I will never ever talk to you again.
Yeah.
Like she's being very like mean in the letter, but it's like she's giving him a hard time, and he's smiling and loving it. And she's like, I'm so jealous of the woman who lives across the way from us, because she gets to see you like through the window, like every morning and evening, Like, I'm so jealous about that. It's just such a love letter.
Yeah. And then he gets home, and there's one of her relatives there, and he tells her that Apurna died in childbirth.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, I was like, oh, so he has a child now.
Yeah. And his response is to punch the guy.
Yeah, which I get.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And that's
his reaction when he found out that she died was
amazing.
Incredible.
Well, yeah, and sometimes, when you watch an older movie, like acting has evolved so much over the 100 years of film that we have.
Mm-hmm.
And like this scene, I was like, this scene could come out like 2024.
Yes.
And it would still be like modern acting.
Yes.
Like it looks like that's, how they do it.
Yep.
Or shall I say, they wish, the people who are doing it now. And so then he becomes extremely depressed, and he doesn't visit his child. And so, but at one point he attempts suicide.
Yes, at the train.
And I thought how they shot this was
so good.
Incredible.
Yeah.
You hear the train.
I actually thought he was going to do it. And then I thought, what could the rest of this movie be about?
Yeah.
Like about a son, I guess.
And that would make sense.
Yes.
I mean, I only knew not because I'd read in the booklet.
Well, I knew that image, too, that I was waiting for the whole movie.
Oh, yeah. But that was a different actor.
No.
But it's like the camera just dollies past his face, and we're hearing the train, and then we see the smoke. It's just like a white that we're seeing, and then it pans back to him. And so he's on the tracks, even though you can't see them. And then you cut and you hear this pig squeal.
A pig got hit by a train.
And the pig got hit by the train, which either caused it to slow down or like woke him from his stupor. I don't know which.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter which.
Yeah.
And so it's a failed attempt.
Yeah.
Which is good. And then he's like absolutely depressed still. And he gets a job working at a coal mine. Right? Yeah, coal mine.
Well, he just wonders for a long time.
Yeah.
I think he does mention in a letter to Pulu, like, maybe he will finish his book now. But as he's wandering around, does.
The coal mine is a little later.
It is, yeah. But so I think he's just drifting throughout the land, working jobs. And at a certain point, so beautifully shot, he's like on top of a mountain on a hill.
I know that his wife died. And I know that he's like not visiting his son. This was the most devastating scene of maybe the whole series.
Did you think like well, I guess like God forbid anything like this ever happened to you, but like, what do you think there's anything that could push you to do this?
To like get rid of?
Yeah. So he's on the top of the mountain and he takes out the book that he'd been writing on all the pages of paper, and he pulls it out and he's looking at it, and then he just lets it all go and fall off the mountain. The papers.
It's so devastating because we already know that it's good.
Yeah.
Because of what Pulu has said, and we're just assuming, we're taking him at his word. And
well, he's also has like had the movie begins with him having a short story accepted.
Yeah.
So it's like he's got people think he's a good writer.
Yeah. Well, and there's this great expression that I've heard, this quote from someone that is like, when you are an artist, when you are creating, which I don't necessarily agree completely with the semantics of the statement, but I like the idea of it. When you are creating, you're doing the most selfish thing in the world. You're making something for yourself, and you're doing it for yourself. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Making it the best you can. And then when you give it away and show it to the world, you're doing the most selfless thing that you can possibly do. And I really love that idea. And so for him, it's like, when I see that he has deprived the world of something that is important. Even if like one person reads it and that affects them, he deprived the world of that. Not to make it all selfish, like for him, well, it is kind of selfish, to create and to not share. So, that statement is somewhat true. It's just so devastating. And you ask like, would I be driven to do that? I mean, with extreme circumstances like this, yeah, probably. But it's not really in my nature. I mean, I'll get rid of something that is like not up to the quality that I want it to be. That's being an artist as well. But like this album I just finished, the live album, which is coming soon, folks. Go fire yourself, coming soon. Like if I just had it and then I was like, I'm so depressed, I'm just gonna like delete all the files. That's that makes me sick,
Yeah.
What about you? Could you?
I definitely think I could, depending on things. But I mean, I've gotten to probably the lowest point of my artistic endeavor ever in my life this year, and I still haven't deleted it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Hey, anyone have any publisher hookups? Let us know. Because Jordan's got a really great novel, and it's annoying that it's not getting picked up because it's great. Wouldn't it be funny if there was like one random person that listened to this and they're like, "Yeah, I just found this episode." But maybe we're just needing to live life in the moments, like this movie is teaching us.
Mm-hmm.
But it would be nice to be a little bit like the director of this movie, who was living life in the moments, but had some huge hits that are historically significant. Also, the score in this scene, is incredible. It introduces the harp, and it's so moving, and it's instrumentation that we have not heard in the entire series. I mean, this is what makes a composer from good to great. Bringing in the harp, there's more strings emphasis. It just hits in a way that no other moment in the whole series has hit. Not even the other deaths. Beautiful.
Yeah.
And then he goes to the coal mine. He's working there.
Pulu finds him.
Pulu
goes home.
Oh, actually, before that, I'm sorry, but we switched to the sun.
Yeah.
And there was a little part of me that thought maybe that was the end of Apu in this movie.
Wow.
Oh, wait, no. I didn't think that because of the shot.
Yeah. But I understand what
if not for the shot, maybe, because it's almost like, okay, that's the end of Apu. And now we're going to show another child has been born, and that's how this series ends, which it's still kind of how the series ends. But I kind of had that thought.
Yeah.
And we're seeing him run around. He's in a village, much like Apu. He has a better
wearing
upbringing.
Wearing a Korok mask.
Yeah.
He's a little stinker.
He's a little stinker, kind of more like Apu's sister, maybe.
Sure.
Than Apu. But he doesn't have a dad. He doesn't have a mom. He's being raised by his
and he assumes
grandparents.
He knows that his dad lives in Calcutta, and he thinks his dad's some tough guy.
Yeah.
That someday he's going to come back for him.
Yeah. And then Pulu tracks down Apu, and he's
trying to convince him to go see his son.
Yeah, and it's been 5 years.
5 years.
And he's never visited
and
his
apparently
son.
He's sent money infrequently for his son, but that's all he's done. And he admits that he has never desired. Pulu's like, have you ever wanted to see him? And he says, no, never. I have no feelings for him, ever. And you can tell as our conversation progresses that he's like starting to lose it. And it's like, well, he obviously cares.
And didn't he say like...
Well, this is what he said.
Yeah.
Was, I don't want to see him because he will be the reminder of Apurna being dead. Like, he is the reason I don't have her anymore.
So brutal. Yeah.
And that's the driving force of why he's never wanted to meet him. Because of that.
Yeah.
And that is so sad.
Yeah.
And so true. You can't help but sympathize with him, but also you're like screaming like, go to him, go to him.
Well, this is the other beautiful thing about this entire series is like the mother has been so overbearing. He's making a terrible decision right now, but it never feels like these are the bad guys. We should be pointing our finger at them, or like they are doing the wrong thing. You're like, I get it.
Yeah.
This is what life is sometimes.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just choose the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And that's just how it is, And so that's the another beautiful thing about this series is there's no good guys, there's no bad guys. Everybody's just trying to do their best.
Everyone's just trying to live.
Everyone's just trying to live in the contentment.
Yeah.
And then he eventually goes, and he has arranged. He's going to meet his son, but he's arranged for him to live somewhere else.
Yeah.
And so he's done that, and he talks to the grandpa, and the grandpa's like, go upstairs and meet him. He meets him, tells him he's his dad, and the kid runs out, and he's like, you're not my dad.
Yeah.
And then we're like, okay, this movie is crazy.
And I think he stays the night there. But he leaves the next day.
Yeah.
It is just like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
Left money for him, but he is like, I can't do anymore. I can't do this anymore. And starts walking away. And the kid is very far off in the distance. And he sees him, continues walking. The kid runs after him, turns back around, and is like, are you going to come with me? And his son's like, well, you're not my dad. He's like, my dad lives in Calcutta. Are you going to Calcutta? And he's like, I will if I can.
Yeah.
We can go. And he says, because my dad's there. And he's like, okay, we can go there. And he says something like, are you, or what does he say to him?
He says like, who are you?
Who are you? Yeah. And he's like, I am your friend, is what he says. And he says, so are you coming with me? Are we going? And the kid runs up to him and they leave together. And the grandfather's behind, like trying to find him, sees the son with him and lets them go.
And he has found his contentment in living in the moments.
Yeah.
And now he has a son.
Yeah. It is wild.
It's incredible. And the ending feels like it feels almost cyclical, you know?
It does.
Then you start
But he does.
Again.
So he's doing what he said, like what his book was about. All these tragedies, one after another. He never makes it, quote unquote.
Yeah.
But he lives.
He lives. It's
Wipe
wonderful.
that tear from your eye. It's going to be okay.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'm really glad we expounded our interests. And well, I mean, of course we were going to like it, but you know, doing something outside of the box for the podcast.
But I was I was expecting to like it, but I was my expectation was like, I'll like it, but I'll be kind of bored.
Yeah.
Which is what you always kind of, I guess, maybe your expectation is for an older movie.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it'll be entertaining at points, but it'll be a little bit of a slog. Not at all.
No. So wonderful. If you, for some reason, listen to this and didn't watch them, even though we just spoil everything, go watch it.
Yeah. Makes sense why this is on every best of list.
Yeah. I mean, this is in like every best of list. You just said it. Why do I need to reiterate it? So let's see. Do you have anything else to say about it?
Nope. I love it.
I love it too. It'll be fun to revisit sometime whenever that happens. It is cool. Do you ever just think about like, I just think about growing as an art lover, and specifically with film, where it's like, if I watched this 5 years ago, I'd be like, this is so boring and I don't like them.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And then as you get older, you just like, it's fun that I can still enjoy good old fashioned Avengers Endgame kind of stuff and Avatar and stuff like that. But then sometimes it's like, you just got to watch something that shows you life.
Mm-hmm.
You got to watch the Decalogue. You got to watch, stuff like this. Mm-hmm. So I love that. And then after this, I think Jordan and I are going to probably just start some Indian movie that we haven't decided upon yet. Because now
it's Indian summer.
It's Indian summer. It's time to watch another one. It's been a little while. I think even though that Amir Khan movie, I can't find it anywhere. I think we just got to find an Amir. I got to watch Amir tonight.
Great. I mean, he's got like 20 movies on Netflix.
Yeah. So I think we just need to get our Khan on. Get our Wrath of Khan on.
Oh, boy, is he wrathful, that Khan.
So then here is the little setup here.
When does this come out?
This comes out August 2nd.
Okay.
So next week we will be covering Deadpool and Wolverine with a special guest. It'll be our only guest of 2024 left.
Well,
yeah. Just because we cut down on guests, but we made one exception because of baby juggling. Yeah, we juggle our baby. And then after that, we have a week off, and then we're going to be covering a vastly different series starring a one Denzel Washington. It is, what is it called, Jordan?
The Equalizer.
We're going to do The Equalizer, which I think will be a lot of fun. And then next week on Patreon, on Wednesday, you're going to be able to listen to our episode on Top Gun Maverick, where we're going to be talking about all things Glenn Powell, and mostly Glenn Powell, I assume. And we might mention like the Jets and Tom Cruise and stuff. But
sorry, Tom Cruise, step aside. It's Glenn Powell's time.
Yeah, it's the power
not even
of
the
Powell.
lead of this movie. Like, not even like, Miles Teller's like the co-lead.
Yeah, but this is the christening of him, and he's writing the checks now. And
although he's been around for a while before this movie, but
yeah, but this is the christening of
truly.
Yeah, and I do think by the time we record that episode,
he's the Iceman of this movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But by the time we record that episode, I believe that he will be a grade A butts and seat movie star, because Twisters will have come out to probably a huge hit. So a movie that I thought looked terrible, that probably by the time Top Gun Maverick comes out, I will have seen, because I want to see Glenn Powell in the big screen. And I got mad watching Hitman at home, seeing him on a small screen. He's a big screen boy. So come on the pod, Glenn. We will make another exception. You can pick and choose any movie you want. But actually, we're going to have to not have your camera on, because I'm a little scared of what it could do to Jordan.
Oh, gosh.
All right.
I'm a little scared of what it'd do to you.
Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you next week with Deadpool and Wolverine.
Bye.
With them. They're going to be on too.